The morning of May 29, 1944, dawned with a deceptive calm over the vast expanse of the mid-Atlantic, approximately 500 miles west of the Azores. Beneath the surface, at a depth Kapitänleutnant Detlev Krankenhagen believed offered safety, 600 feet below the waves, his Type 9X C-40 U-boat U-549 lurked in the shadows. This seasoned German submarine had just struck a devastating blow less than an hour before sunset on May 28th, torpedoing and sinking the American escort carrier USS Block Island, CVE-21. The carrier, a vital component of the Allied anti-submarine screen, had gone down with 6 of its crew killed and 37 wounded, a testament to U-549's lethal precision. Now, however, the hunter had become the hunted. Through the hydrophones, Krankenhagen and his crew of 55 listened intently to the methodical, persistent churn of propellers overhead, the screws of American destroyer escorts searching for their prey. The sound was a familiar rhythm, one they had survived before through 3 years of brutal experience in the Atlantic's unforgiving waters. German U-boat commanders had honed a standard pattern of evasion that had kept them alive against the relentless Allied depth charge attacks. The tactic was a dance of survival. Drop to maximum depth, go silent, wait for the attackers to lose sonar contact in the blind spot directly beneath their hulls, execute a sharp course change during those precious seconds when the escorts passed overhead, and endure the concussive blasts that might crack gauges, shatter right bulbs, or strain the pressure hull, but rarely penetrated to inflict fatal damage at such depths. This doctrine, refined through countless engagements since 1939, had become second nature to Krankenhagen and his crew. They believed they could weather the storm once more, relying on the structural integrity of their Type 9X C-40 submarine, designed to withstand pressures up to 750 feet, and their tactical acumen to outmaneuver the enemy. What Krankenhagen could not know, and what no German commander fully grasped in May 1944, was that the rules of this deadly game had fundamentally changed. The destroyer escort USS Eugene E. Elmore, commanded by Lieutenant Commander G.L. Comley, maintained perfect sonar contact with U-549 despite the submarine's depth. Equipped with the advanced Type 144 sonar, the Elmore could detect submarines at ranges up to 3,000 yards under ideal conditions, and the calm waters of the mid-Atlantic that morning were nearly perfect. More critically, mounted on Elmore's forecastle deck was a weapons system that German naval intelligence had only begun to catalog: the Hedgehog anti-submarine mortar. At approximately 9 p.m., 2100 hours, Conley ordered his first attack run. In a rapid succession, lasting under 2 seconds, 24 projectiles launched forward, each 7 inches in diameter, weighing 65 pounds and carrying 35 pounds of Torpax explosive, a compound 50% more powerful than TNT. The bombs arced through the darkness, splashing into the Atlantic in a circular pattern 200 yards ahead of Elmore's bow. Sinking at 23.5 feet per second, they descended toward U-549's depth of 600 feet, a journey that would take approximately 25 seconds. Unlike depth charges, which exploded at preset depths regardless of contact, these Hedgehog projectiles were designed to detonate only upon striking a solid object. The first salvo missed, sinking silently past the submarine to the ocean floor.
Krankenhagen, likely believing he had dodged the attack, maintained his silent vigil, unaware that Elmore's sonar operators continued to track his every move. The destroyer escort turned for a second pass, reloading its Hedgehog launcher in 3 minutes, a remarkably swift turnaround. At 9:03 p.m., another 24 projectiles launched, entering the water 30 seconds later. This time, 3 underwater explosions echoed through Elmore's sonar, signaling 3 direct hits on U-549's pressure hull. 4 minutes later, at 9:07 p.m., sonar operators detected a heavy, crushing explosion, the unmistakable sound of U-549 imploding as it sank past its crush depth, killing all 55 men aboard instantly. From the moment Elmore fired its second salvo to the submarine's destruction, approximately 4.5 minutes elapsed. This engagement marked a pivotal moment, a stark realization for German U-boat commanders. The tactical advantages they had relied upon were obsolete, replaced by a technological shift they could neither hear coming nor evade. The psychological framework of survival. To comprehend the profound psychological impact of the Hedgehog on German U-boat crews, one must first understand the mindset that sustained them before this weapon's widespread deployment. By 1943, German submariners operated under no illusions about the dangers they faced. The Battle of the Atlantic had claimed thousands of their comrades. Over 28,000 of the 40,000 who served would perish, a casualty rate exceeding 70%, the highest of any military branch in World War II. Yet they possessed hard-won tactical knowledge that offered genuine hope for survival. German U-boat doctrine, refined through brutal experience since the war's outset, centered on exploiting the fundamental weaknesses of Allied anti-submarine warfare, particularly the sonar blind spot. British ASDIC and American sonar systems transmitted sound pulses that bounced off submerged targets, returning as echoes to detect and track submarines. This technology worked effectively at medium ranges, but created a critical vulnerability at close quarters. As an escort vessel closed to attack, the time between the transmitted pulse and returning echo shortened. At ranges typically under 200 yards, the outgoing pulse and returning echo merged into what operators called an instantaneous echo, rendering the submarine invisible on sonar screens at the precise moment when accurate weapon placement was critical. This blind spot extended directly beneath the attacking ship, offering a zone where the submarine could maneuver undetected. German commanders mastered this weakness with practiced precision. As the escort passed overhead to drop depth charges, the submarine would execute sharp changes in direction and speed, exploiting the escort's temporary blindness. The charges, dropped based on the submarine's last known position, often missed by 50 to 100 yards, allowing the U-boat to escape during those critical seconds. Depth charges themselves imposed limitations that further favored the submarine. The Mark VI and Mark VII depth charges, standard Allied weapons through 1943, sank at 8 to 9 feet per second. For a submarine at 300 feet, well within the operational depth of most U-boats, the charges required over 33 seconds to reach attack depth after entering the water. During this half-minute, while the escort remained blind and the charges descended slowly, the captain could order changes in depth, speed, and heading. These explosives detonated at preset depths using hydrostatic fuses, whether near a target or not, creating massive underwater explosions that temporarily disrupted sonar performance for both attacker and nearby escorts. The resulting turbulence and noise could persist for 15 minutes or longer, giving the submarine a window to escape, running silent at a different depth and heading. German submarine construction emphasized structural strength to survive such attacks. The pressure hull of a Type WWII U-boat, the most common variant, could theoretically withstand pressures at depths approaching 750 feet, though captains rarely pushed their boats to these limits. The hull was engineered to absorb substantial shock damage from nearby depth charge explosions without catastrophic failure, requiring multiple charges to detonate within 10 to 20 feet to inflict fatal damage. British records from World War II document 5,174 depth charge attacks, resulting in 85.5 confirmed U-boat kills, a success ratio of approximately 1 in 60. Many U-boats survived hundreds of depth charges during their careers. U-427, for instance, famously endured 678 depth charges in April 1945 before escaping, a testament to the resilience that reinforced submariners' belief in their survival tactics.
This relative survivability fostered a psychological framework that sustained German U-boat crews. They accepted the extraordinary danger, knowing that each patrol might be their last, but danger and certain death were not synonymous. Skill, experience, and understanding of their enemy's weapons and limitations mattered. A competent captain who knew his boat and executed proper evasive maneuvers could bring his crew home. Many had done so repeatedly, their survived stories fueling a sense of agency amidst the chaos. This belief system, while never guaranteeing safety, provided a psychological anchor, convincing men that their fate remained partially in their own hands. The evolution of the Hedgehog, a technological game-changer. The Hedgehog anti-submarine mortar emerged not from grand naval research laboratories, but from the unconventional offices of the Directorate of Miscellaneous Weapons Development, affectionately nicknamed the Weezers and Dodgers for their creative approach to military engineering. Commander Charles Goodeve of the Royal Navy conceived the forward-throwing mortar concept in the spring of 1940, recognizing that the fundamental problem with depth charges was not their explosive power, but their tactical deployment. The technical challenge was formidable, requiring adaptation of Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Blacker's pre-war spigot mortar technology, where the propelling charge remained fixed while a rod, the spigot, fitted inside a tubular tail on the projectile. This principle had succeeded in the Blacker Bombard infantry mortar and PIAT anti-tank weapon, but adaptating it for naval use against submarines demanded innovative solutions. The first attempt, the Fairley mortar tested aboard HMS Whitehall in 1941, failed comprehensively. Its projectiles, with an iron nose limiting the explosive payload to 20 pounds and a fuse in the tail, offered inadequate range, poor accuracy, and insufficient power to penetrate a U-boat's pressure hull, even with a direct hit. Goodeve's team redesigned the system, placing 35 pounds of Torpex explosive in each projectile, with the contact fuse mounted in the nose for stability and reliability. Extensive experiments determined that flat-nosed projectiles were less likely to skip or ricochet upon water impact, ensuring vertical descent into the target area. The contact fuse mechanism required precision engineering. It had to withstand the violent shock of hitting water at high velocity without detonating prematurely. A small propeller blade on the nose armed the fuse after approximately 50 feet of descent, triggering detonation upon striking a solid surface harder than ocean sediment. Determining the optimal explosive charge involved meticulous research, often bordering on espionage. German U-boat construction details remained classified, but an Italian naval magazine published photographs of German submarine production, including one showing a worker on a U-boat's pressure hull. By measuring the worker's apparent leg length and calculating perspective distortion, engineers estimated the distance between the pressure hull and outer casing, confirming that 35 pounds of Torpex could penetrate both layers. The projectile dispersal pattern required mathematical optimization, tested with a device resembling a roulette wheel, launching miniature projectiles at a scale model submarine. Thousands of impacts were recorded, analyzing angles and spacing to achieve a 130-foot diameter pattern with projectiles 18 feet apart, the statistical optimum for catching a maneuvering submarine. HMS Westcott received the prototype launcher in 1941 for sea trials, performing adequately but yielding no kills until November 1942, despite installation on 100 ships. Early deployments faced technical issues. North Atlantic weather coated the launcher with spray, causing electrical firing circuit failures and incomplete salvos. Heavy seas complicated aiming, and the silence of mist attacks, 24 small splashes with no explosions, created a profound sense of futility compared to the dramatic geysers of depth charge detonations. This psychological barrier, more than technical flaws, hindered initial success, prompting the Royal Navy to issue a 1943 directive ordering commanders to justify not using Hedgehog. The transformation began with comprehensive retraining programs in Londonderry, where crews learned the weapon's principles. The silence of missed attacks was an advantage, preserving sonar contact for subsequent runs, unlike depth charge explosions that obscured returns for 15 minutes. The circular pattern accounted for evasion during descent, requiring crews to aim at the submarine's current position. Any explosion signaled a hit, and nearly always a kill. By late 1943, improved sonar integration and combat information centers, consolidating sonar, radar, and fire control data, boosted effectiveness. The Hedgehog's success rate rose to 20% by war's end, compared to 1 in 60 for depth charges, with 47 confirmed kills from 268 attacks by British forces and 11 of the last 16 U-boat sinkings by U.S. Navy destroyers. The tactical shift and U-549's demise. The Hedgehog's rapid sink rate, 23.5 feet per second, cut reaction time to 13 seconds for a 300-foot depth, half that of depth charges, leaving U-boat commanders no time to maneuver. Contact fuses ensured a single hit was fatal, unlike the graduated damage model of depth charges. For Krankenhagen on May 29th, the first salvo's silence likely reinforced his confidence in evasive tactics. The second salvo's 3 hits ruptured U-549's pressure hull, triggering an implosion as it exceeded 700 feet, a death sentence delivered in 4.5 minutes. This engagement foreshadowed a pattern seen in Operation Teardrop, April-May 1945, where US-123, US-880, US-518, and US-546 fell to Hedgehog attacks, often with massive secondary explosions from torpedoes or air flasks.
For surviving U-boat commanders like Helmut Sommer of U-853, sunk on May 7, 1945, the realization came too late. Despite evading earlier attacks, U-853's encounter with USS Atherton and USS Moberly ended with Hedgehog strikes, killing all 55 aboard. The weapon's forward-firing design eliminated the blind spot. Its speed compressed reaction time, and its contact detonation removed survival margins. German naval intelligence, hampered by slow reporting and decrypted Enigma losses, could not adapt doctrine in time, leaving crews to face a paradigm they could not counter. The human cost and legacy. The Hedgehog's impact was devastating, raising U-boat casualty rates to 70% in 1944-1945, with crews shifting from grim determination to fatalism. Herbert Werner's Iron Coffins captures the terror of silent, instantaneous attacks, stripping away the agency that once sustained them. The weapon's simplicity, unguided projectiles enhanced by sonar and training, outperformed complex systems, influencing post-war anti-submarine doctrine like Squid and Mark 46 torpedoes. For the 28,000 submariners who died, many in the war's final months, the tragedy lay in a leadership blind to the shifted tactical balance, sending men to their deaths on obsolete assumptions. On May 29, 1944, Krankenhagen's perfect execution of doctrine met an unyielding reality. The gap between belief and truth, measured in the lives of 55 men, underscores the Hedgehog's legacy, a silent harbinger of a new era in naval warfare.